In just 91 seconds, $47 million in federal voting oversight funding. Kash Patel didn't expect the question. He certainly didn't expect the evidence. Cameras captured every micro-expression as the FBI director's confident smile dissolved into panic. What did Senator Mazie Hirono reveal that made the most powerful law enforcement officer in America visibly crumble before Congress? At exactly 2:17 p.m. on March 15, 2025, Senate Judiciary Committee Hearing Room 2036 buzzed with electric tension. The mahogany-paneled chamber was about to witness one of the most devastating takedowns in congressional history. Reporters filled every seat, cameras trained on FBI Director Kash Patel, who sat with the composed confidence of a man who believed himself untouchable. Patel walked in like an investigator who had seen too many lies, his FBI badge gleaming under harsh committee lights. Stacks of classified folders and his expensive legal team broadcast the message that this administration didn't cower before congressional oversight. Senator Mazie Hirono sat at the far end of the Democratic side, her unassuming presence masking the legal precision that had destroyed countless nominees before Patel. At 77, the Hawaiian senator had perfected surgical questioning, appearing grandmotherly while delivering fatal blows. Today, she carried a thin manila folder that would change everything. The hearing had droned on for 3 hours. Republicans lobbed softballs about border security, allowing Patel to recite talking points about real criminals instead of political targets. Democrats pressed on civil rights, receiving evasive non-answers about ongoing investigations. But Hirono had been silent, studying every word, every gesture. The manila folder in front of her contained the ammunition she needed. Director Patel, Hirono began, her soft voice cutting through the committee room's murmur. Like a scalpel, I want to discuss your FBI's Civil Rights Division and its approach to voting rights enforcement. Patel straightened slightly, his hands moving to adjust his tie with practiced confidence. Senator, I'm proud to say the FBI under my direction has restored constitutional law enforcement to voting rights cases. We're no longer targeting lawful election security measures. Targeting, Hirono repeated, her tone curious rather than confrontational. That's an interesting choice of words. Let's talk about targeting, shall we? She opened the manila folder with deliberate slowness, the sound of paper rustling amplified by the committee room's pin-drop silence. Every reporter leaned forward. C-SPAN's cameras zoomed closer. Director, are you familiar with Operation Ballot Shield? The color drained from Patel's face. His left hand instinctively moved toward his water glass, then stopped mid-gesture. For exactly 4 seconds he said nothing, an eternity in congressional testimony. Senator, I'm not sure what you're referring to. The FBI conducts many voting-related investigations. Operation Ballot Shield, Hirono interrupted, her voice gaining steel. A covert FBI program launched January 30, 2025, targeting minority voting organizations in 7 swing states. Ring any bells? Patel's jaw clenched, his prepared talking points evaporated. Senator, I cannot discuss ongoing operations in this setting. Oh, but we're not discussing ongoing operations. Hirono smiled with devastating sweetness. We're discussing a completed operation. Because, Director Patel, Operation Ballot Shield was shut down yesterday after the Justice Department's Inspector General discovered what you've been doing. The committee room erupted in whispers. Republicans exchanged panicked glances. Chairman Chuck Grassley banged his gavel, but damage was spreading through social media feeds. Hirono pulled another document. This is the Inspector General's preliminary findings. From page 47, FBI agents under Director Patel's direct orders infiltrated 23 minority voter registration organizations using false identities and fabricated evidence. That's classified material. Patel shot back, his composure finally cracking. You have no right. Actually, Director, this was declassified at 11:47 a.m. today by Attorney General Merrick Garland himself. Would you like me to continue? The silence that followed was deafening. Even the court reporter stopped typing. From page 52, Hirono continued relentlessly. Operation Ballot Shield specifically targeted organizations serving African American, Latino, and Native American communities. employing surveillance tactics previously reserved for international terrorism cases. Patel was sweating now, tiny beads visible on his forehead under the committee room's blazing lights. His hands trembled as he reached for his water glass. "Senator, this is a gross mischaracterization of legitimate law enforcement." "Is $47 million a mischaracterization, Director?" The question hung in the air like a thunderclap. Twitter immediately exploded with "Jing 47 million" trending within minutes. $47 million in taxpayer money, Hirono said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, forcing the room to strain to hear. "That's how much you diverted from actual civil rights enforcement to spy on American citizens exercising their constitutional right to vote." "That's completely false." "Is it?" Hirono pulled out another document. Treasury's Criminal Investigation Division audit, $47,432,816, $12 million for surveillance equipment, $8 million for undercover salaries, $15 million for fraudulent front organizations. "I object to this characterization." Patel's voice cracked slightly. "The FBI was investigating potential fraud." "Where's the fraud, Director?" The question was simple, devastating, and unanswerable. "In 23 organizations, across 7 states, with $47 million in resources. How many cases of voter fraud did Operation Ballot Shield uncover?" Patel opened his mouth, then closed it. The silence stretched for 8 excruciating seconds. "0. Hirono answered for him. "Not a single case of voter fraud, but you did manage to suppress voter registration in minority communities by an average of 23% during the 2024 election cycle." The committee room was in chaos now. Democrats were furiously taking notes. Republicans were checking their phones for guidance from leadership. The press gallery was a sea of typing fingers and urgent phone calls. "That statistic is unverified." "Let me read from your own agent's reports." Special Agent Martinez in Phoenix. "Director Patel personally ordered us to prioritize disruption over investigation. Make them too afraid to register new voters." Patel shot to his feet, chair scraping the floor. "That is taken completely out of context." "Sit down, Director," Hirono commanded. Agent Rodriguez in Atlanta reported similar orders. Maximum visibility of FBI presence during voter registration drives. Make sure community leaders know they're being watched. Those are operational decisions within my authority. To intimidate American citizens. To ensure election integrity. By terrorizing grandmothers trying to register their grandchildren to vote. The question landed like a physical blow. Patel's mouth worked soundlessly. "Here's what really happened, Director," Hirono said, her voice now carrying the full weight of moral authority. "You turned the FBI into the enforcement arm of voter suppression. You weaponized America's premier law enforcement agency against the very citizens it's sworn to protect." She pulled out a photograph. "This is Mrs. Rosa Gonzalez, age 74, of Phoenix, Arizona. She runs a voter registration drive out of her church. Your agents subjected her to a 6-hour interrogation about suspicious voting patterns in her neighborhood. She had a heart attack 2 days later." Patel's face was now completely colorless. His hands gripped the witness table so tightly, his knuckles had turned white. "This is Reverend James Washington, of Atlanta. 23 years serving his community, registering voters, helping citizens exercise their constitutional rights. Your Operation Ballot Shield placed him under federal investigation for potential election fraud, based on 0 evidence. Senator, I cannot comment on specific cases." "You cannot comment because there's no legitimate justification for any of it." The explosion of Hirono's voice shocked the room. For 77 years old, her fury carried the power of a woman who had spent a lifetime fighting injustice. "Do you know what voter suppression looks like, Director Patel? It looks like FBI agents in bulletproof vests, showing up at community centers where seniors are registering to vote. It looks like federal investigations opened against Sunday school teachers who dare to encourage civic participation." Patel was visibly shaking now. His prepared talking points, his confident demeanor, his entire persona had crumbled in the face of documented evidence and moral clarity. 91 seconds, Hirono said, glancing at the committee clock. That's how long it took to expose what you really are, Director Patel. Not a law enforcement officer. A suppressor of democracy. The final blow came with surgical precision. You took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. Instead, you corrupted the FBI to attack the very foundation of American democracy, the right to vote. You are a disgrace to that badge, a disgrace to the Bureau, and a disgrace to every agent who still believes in justice. The committee room erupted in gasps. Republicans were stunned into silence. Democrats applauded, despite Chairman Grassley's frantic gavel banging. Patel tried one last desperate defense. Senator, I have served this country.
You have served your own power and your party's political agenda. Hirono cut him off with finality. And history will remember you, not as an FBI director, but as the man who tried to steal Americans' votes by terrorizing them into silence.
The immediate aftermath was unprecedented. Within minutes, Operation Ballot Shield was trending worldwide. CNN broke into programming with breaking FBI director exposed in voting rights scandal. Fox News scrambled for defensive narratives but couldn't explain documented evidence. Republicans attempted weak defenses, but the evidence was too overwhelming. Senator Ted Cruz tried redirecting to border security, but even conservative media focused on the $47 million scandal. The White House communications team went into crisis mode. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre faced a briefing room full of reporters demanding immediate answers about an operation that clearly violated fundamental civil rights. But the most devastating damage came from within the FBI itself. Within hours, agents leaked additional Operation Ballot Shield details. The New York Times received internal memos showing Patel had overruled objections from senior agents who warned the operation was unconstitutional. Special Agent Sarah Chen spoke anonymously. We became the very thing we're supposed to protect Americans against. Director Patel turned us into political police. The Justice Department's Inspector General announced a full criminal investigation would be launched immediately. Attorney General Merrick Garland, visibly shaken during his own press conference, promised accountability at every level and suggested Patel's resignation would be appropriate. Civil rights organizations exploded with fury. The NAACP filed emergency lawsuits seeking damages. The ACLU demanded criminal prosecutions. The National Urban League called for Patel's immediate removal. Most damaging, Senate Republicans began distancing themselves. Senator Lisa Murkowski called the revelations deeply troubling. Even Trump loyalist Josh Hawley said the allegations require serious investigation. By evening, 3 major networks confirmed additional sources verifying Hirono's documents. The evidence represented just the tip of an iceberg of FBI politicization under Patel's leadership. The human cost became clear as affected communities spoke out. Mrs. Rosa Gonzalez told Univision, "They made me feel like a criminal for helping my neighbors vote. This is not America." Reverend Washington appeared on CBS Evening News. Senator Hirono gave voice to our suffering today. She showed courage when courage was needed most. Social media filled with stories from dozens of voter registration volunteers who had been harassed, intimidated, and investigated by Patel's FBI. The hashtag #VotingWhileMinority began trending as citizens shared their experiences of federal intimidation. Former FBI agents publicly condemned their former director. James Comey called the revelations antithetical to everything the FBI stands for. Andrew McCabe appeared on MSNBC saying, Patel had corrupted the Bureau beyond recognition. Within 48 hours, calls for Patel's resignation came from unexpected quarters. The Federal Bureau of Investigation Agents Association, representing thousands of active agents, issued an unprecedented statement questioning their director's leadership. 3 Republican senators, Romney, Collins, and Murkowski, joined Democrats in calling for immediate hearings on FBI reform. The Senate Judiciary Committee announced emergency sessions would begin the following week. But Patel's troubles extended beyond political embarrassment. Federal prosecutors in 3 jurisdictions opened criminal investigations into potential civil rights violations. The Financial Crimes Unit at Treasury began auditing the $47 million in misappropriated funds. Most personally devastating, Patel's own agents began requesting transfers in unprecedented numbers. FBI field offices reported crisis of confidence in leadership. Recruitment numbers plummeted as potential agents questioned the Bureau's integrity under Patel's direction. The conservative media ecosystem struggled to defend the indefensible. Fox News hosts tried framing the scandal as Democratic overreach, but polling showed 78% of Americans, including 62% of Republicans, viewed voter suppression tactics as unacceptable. Talk radio hosts found themselves in impossible positions defending federal agents intimidating elderly church volunteers. The usual partisan talking points crumbled under documented evidence and moral clarity. Trump remained silent for 72 hours. When he finally posted on Truth Social, his defense was weak. Kash is a great patriot unfairly attacked by deep state Democrats. Even Trump's supporters struggled with defending voter suppression tactics. The base that rallied around election integrity found it harder to justify federal agents terrorizing grandmother volunteers. The damage to the FBI's institutional credibility was severe, but recoverable. If Patel departed quickly, career agents worked frantically to distance the Bureau from their director's actions, emphasizing their oath to the Constitution over political loyalty. Senator Hirono, meanwhile, became an overnight hero to voting rights advocates. Her 91 seconds of moral clarity had accomplished what years of investigations and reports had failed to achieve: undeniable proof that American democracy was under assault from within. The footage of Patel's breakdown played endlessly on social media, each replay damaging his credibility further. His visible panic, his inability to defend the indefensible, his transformation from confident authority figure to exposed fraud. It all became a masterclass in accountability. Speaking to reporters after the hearing, Hirono was characteristically humble. "I simply presented the facts. The American people deserve to know when their government betrays their trust." But privately, Democratic leadership knew they had witnessed something historic. A single senator, with 91 seconds of preparation and moral courage, had exposed systematic corruption at the highest levels of law enforcement. The long-term implications were staggering. Operation Ballot Shield revealed how easily democratic institutions could be weaponized. It showed the necessity of constant vigilance, of demanding evidence rather than accepting authority. For Patel, the path forward looked impossible. Criminal investigations, civil lawsuits, congressional oversight, and internal FBI resistance created a perfect storm he couldn't escape. The man who walked into that committee room believing himself untouchable discovered that truth, evidence, and moral authority still mattered. Hirono's 91 seconds reminded the nation that power without accountability is tyranny. Sometimes, the strongest weapon isn't a badge or a subpoena. It's truth, documented and revealed at the right moment. What happens when a leader who built power on secrecy is undone by evidence? If law enforcement can't survive transparency, was it ever really justice? This dramatized story is inspired by real events and public figures. All dialogue and incidents are fictionalized for commentary and educational purposes. This is not intended to defame, but to explore themes of power, truth, and accountability in American democracy. If this story revealed the importance of congressional oversight and voting rights protection, don't just watch, engage with democracy. Like, share, and subscribe where truth gets documented and power gets questioned. What would you do if you discovered your government was suppressing votes? Drop a comment below.